Welcome to Autonomous Drone, Video 3.
Long standoffs. Those will go right here in these holes. You got to put some standoffs here. But what we want to do is find all the component placement. Now this is the FPV receiver, the Bosch cam. Now yours doesn't look like this, but that's okay. I did a little bit of a mod when it was on my F450 quadcopter. And what this is a heat sink. This is a heat sink from a motherboard. And what I did was I used a Dremel and I cut a square out to match the processor that's on top because it gets really hot. And I've touched this before and it does dissipate a lot of heat. What I did was I used some dielectric grease. I put some dielectric grease on the bottom and then I set this on top. Now you got to cut the plastic out. Let me see here. Let me get a flat blade. You have to cut the plastic real carefully. I don't know if you can see that around that processor. Okay, you got to cut that top plastic off. That way you can put the dielectric grease on the bottom side of this and push it down. And then what I did is I just took some super glue and ran it around the seams. It makes a good fit, and it keeps my receiver nice and cool. Now, as you can tell on the bottom side, you have buttons for different channels. What I did is I went ahead and set it. Now, I don't know exactly what channel is on, but on your FPV goggles, you can tune in to this with your FPV goggles. Anyway, back to the placement. Like I said, it doesn't matter where you put these parts as long as the wires will reach your flight controller and your camera. So these wires, this camera here, so these wires here are definitely long enough. Now we're going to do a little more soldering, like the JST connectors that I showed you in the parts breakdown. These are going to be used to connect the FPV right here. I got a little male JST connector, and then we have the LED lights. Now what I'm thinking is I'm going to place these just like I did on my F450, which I'll double-sided tape them right here. And what's nice is they're spread apart, and you can use one color on the front, one color on the back, and it shows you which way your quadcopter is pointing. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention is this is a part that you need. This is a power module. And on my F450, I stuck it through. I took the one end and put it through here, and then the other end through here, through the other leg, like so. And what's nice is you can zip tie it and it stays secure. Now this end here, this female end here has to go in the male end of your power module. It won't work if you get it backwards. So it's very critical that you are able to plug the female in to the male end of the power module. There's instructions online if you're not really familiar which way they go. But this power module is definitely needed for the flight controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and attach my parts, and then I'm going to come back and briefly show you where I've attached them. Now if you notice, I have not hooked up my electronic speed controls yet, because I'm going to go ahead and attach them later. You don't want to zip tie them because in all these wires, because you may have to change one of these wires because your prop is actually running backwards. So anyway, what I'm going to do is go ahead with the parts placement and come back. Okay, welcome to the parts placement build on the Reptile 500 quadcopter frame. I went ahead and fully assembled the quadcopter to make sure the weight was well distributed across the whole entire frame. I'm going to show you briefly where I've put the parts and why. Starting off with the LED lights, I put an LED light board on each arm, on the front and on the back. Okay, and of course the flight controllers on top in the center of the frame with the rubber bushings. Next is the FlySky FSI A6 receiver. Put that in the front. It makes an easy connection from here to the flight controller. Next, I secured the compass with the extending arm or the extending post on this arm here with some screws. I secured it. Then you have your FPV camera with the mount right here, and I just used a single piece of double-sided tape and it holds it pretty secure. Next, I placed all my electronic speed controls underneath the arms, as stated earlier in the video. And then on the back side of the bottom of the frame, this is where the power module sits. I secured it with a Velcro strip here, or a zip tie here, and a zip tie here. And I ran my female power connector coming off my power board right here. And it connects very nicely in this location. Next, I placed the telemetry box in this location in the middle of the back of the frame with the antenna protruding out. I placed the Bosch cam transmitter, FPV transmitter, with the antenna protruding out this way. Kind of gives it a nice look. Up next, I went ahead and placed some Velcro. Now I used a big piece of Velcro on the bottom here so I can Velcro my battery to the bottom of it like I did my F450. Now I do not use any straps. This Velcro sticks pretty tight. I've never had it fall off on my F450. So I just stick it right there. And as you can tell, it holds the weight of my quadcopter. And then you can turn it over and shake it, and it will not fall off. So I think that's a pretty secure way of securing my battery. Now up next, or the last part, is the voltage meter that monitors the battery voltage. I put a piece of Velcro right here on each of my batteries and a Velcro on the bottom, so I could go ahead and just secure it right there. And then the connector plugs right into here. And if you're hovering, you should be able to see, if you're hovering above you, you should be able to see the voltage on your meter. And then the battery placement is right here, so I can very easily plug in the power cord like this. So that pretty much sums up the parts placement of all my parts. Now I'm going to continue on in the next video and show you hooking up of all the components.